it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Joe Burrow yesterday.
He's going through his emo phase.
He was going through his emo phase. He was saying the injuries were getting to him, and he's going through the mortality phase of football. I think he also talked about how last year he didn't handle the calf injury right. He should have handled it differently. He should have waited longer. He shouldn't have rushed back. And that's been an avid part of this offseason, making sure everything's good to go, not rushing anything, taking care of his body. Did you have any big takeaways from Joe Burrow's sad boy press conference?
Here's the thing: is one of the most mature things you can do as an athlete is realizing that when you're not at your best, you can be detrimental to the team. And I think that's what the takeaway he got from his calf last year. And this is coming from the guy that said, if Joe Burrow is at 50%, I want him playing over Jake Browning. And in hindsight, that was the wrong call. We saw what Jake Browning could do. It's more than serviceable. And we wanted a more healthy Joe Burrow, so let's push it back. It's the first few weeks of the season. Let's do that. All that being said, it's a very real thing that injuries can take a mental toll on athletes. You've seen basketball players that have tore up their that are, dunk flying through the air. They tear up their knee, tear up their ankle. All of a sudden, they don't do that anymore. They don't play that same way. We've seen that happen in different sports. Running backs don't look the same. Quarterbacks don't look the same. And this is what scares me. It's adding a new layer of worry for Joe Burrow that I've truly have never had before. My worry with Joe Burrow has been, can he stay healthy? Because what I've seen when he is healthy, he's one of the best players on the planet. He's one of the most productive, most efficient players on the planet. He takes his franchises to heights that we've never seen before. Now, he's been hurt almost every single year that we've had him, in some capacity, some smaller than others. Obviously, there's 2 season-ending injuries there. Now I'm worried, at least in some small capacity, that he might not be the same player ever. And maybe that's just anxiousness about him. But I think it's a fair worry to have. And I'm not going to go overboard until I see him play. But it is nestling in the back of my mind that I can't just worry about him being healthy. Now that worry has a neighbor, and that neighbor is, what if he's not the same player again? And that's what people said when he had this injury. We've seen this happen before where he's not going to be the same quarterback that he ever was. And maybe we'll go out there in the first 4 weeks and that worry, that anxiousness will go by the wayside. But it's certainly creeping in my mind because it's coming from his own mouth. It's coming from his mouth where he's saying, I have to realize that I'm not invincible. Everyone goes through this in their life. You're young, you're in your 20s, teens. You live life so much differently than when you do as a 28-year-old. And I'll live life differently 10 years from now than I do right now. Joe Burrow's, we're seeing that happen very quickly through the way that he is going about injuries, the way that he is going about coming back from said injury. To now, I'm at least a little worried that he might not be the same player again.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something to be worried about. And the other thing is you just can't play football scared. If Joe Burrow's going out there and he's just constantly thinking about, well, maybe I get hurt again. I've had all these injuries in the past, and he's tiptoeing around and he's scared to take contact and he's not, getting the ball out fast enough or anything. You're gonna get hurt again. Football's not a sport that you can play, at 50%, even at 80%, of speed or anything like that. Right. You have to go 100% the entire time to protect yourself. And if that's in the back of his head that he's going to get hurt again, that his football mortality has come into play and his career could end, or whatever you take that to mean, that's not great. And that's what would lead him to not being the same player, like you said. It's not necessarily that he's going to forget how to play football, right, or stop throwing the deep ball or anything like that. It's if you get worried about injuries and you're tucking into sacks or that instead of rolling out and extending plays and stuff like that, that's the stuff that makes Joe Burrow a top 2, top 3 quarterback in the entire league. You take that away, then what is he? So, yeah, it's the apparent fear of a reoccurring injury.
And I think the biggest example of all of this is Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's career was cut drastically short because football was making him unhappy mentally as well as physically. It was taking a massive physical toll on his body. He got roughed up early on in his career, and it lasted throughout his career. The injuries, the surgeries. And I think, and I'll never forget that closing press conference he had, his farewell press conference, his retirement. He said it was injury, surgery, off-season, repeat. and he was tired of it. And I think Joe Burrow was expressing that could be the reality, and that's not something any player wants to go through. But when you play football, as Jacob said, if you're not going 100%, you're not going to be successful. It's just how the game is. It's why it's the greatest sport in the world. It's because every single one of these guys is going 100% every single snap, every single down, and it's physical. It's the most physical sport in the world, maybe outside of rugby. But saying all that, even that, it's just crazy, and that's what I would be worried about. You're going to get Joe Burrow for a while. He's not retiring anytime soon. He's not going to quit. He's not going to give up. But going forward, it is something to keep in mind. He got sacked how many times in the postseason? 25, 30 times in that Super Bowl, in that Super Bowl run? That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers. No quarterback takes that kind of hit, take those kinds of hits consistently like that. And he did. He's been fighting it. And Joe Burrow, as we know, he's a trooper. He's a warrior. And when he gets up to the press conference, he says he doesn't mind taking a sack. He likes the physicality of the sport. And that's what he'll tell the fans. And you believe him because he's our guy. He's our leader. But going forward, yeah, I think when any player has to deal with the amount of injuries, and I know we don't like to call Joe Burrow injury prone, but when you have to deal with the amount of injuries, the amount of I don't know what to say, inconsistent off seasons that he's had over the past couple of years, you have to deal with. You have to say that. You have to deal with it. You have to be aware of the issues at hand. Whether or not it's his fault is irrelevant. It's happened to him.
The Bengals have done a good job at investing around him. Obviously, you bring in Trent
Brown
this year,
they're
you pay
trying
Orlando
to
Brown.
fix the
They are
problem.
trying, yes.
Right, like they've done what we've asked them to do after that original Super Bowl run to try to prevent anything like that from happening again. That injury that he had this year is a freak thing that happened because of a fairly normal sack play. I mean, great O linemen miss blocks. That's not it's not the end of the world, but it really does just come down to if he's scared or not.
Yeah, here's the thing. What do we love most about Joe Burrow? It's his confidence. It's his swagger. It's what do the Gen Zers, Gen Xers call it? Aura. Yeah, that's what we love about Joe Burrow. It's Joe Burr. It's Joe Cool. It's Joe Shiesty. When you strip him of that confidence, and that's what I took out of this quote was there is a little less confidence from him. He's not sure he's going to be okay. He's not sure he's going to always be bad. When you strip him of that confidence, what do you have? And once again, I'm reserving the idea that he comes out the first 4 weeks and he looks like the Joe Burrow we know. This anxiety, this anxiousness, this worry that is now adjacent to his injury worry, that goes by the wayside. I'm done with it. I won't think about it anymore. But for the time being, based off what he's saying, when the guy that seemed like the most confident dude in the league has a little bit of a shaky confidence, what do you got there?
Right.
And
it's not like he has the strongest arm or he's the fastest.
Right. He's not the most talented guy.
It's accuracy and moxie is what gets him to where he's been, and if you take that away, what is he?
And again, to finish off some of the quotes he had here, it's they don't have to be ready to go, or they don't have to be ready to roll in June. It's you get ready to go through September, in September through February, and that's how he said he's attacking this offseason. He wants to be out there, and we're attacking it like I want to be out there playing in February. So that's his goal, that's his motto. And he's going to be ready to go. I have no doubt in my mind that Joe Burrow is going to stay healthy this season. I think this is going to be I'm going to be positive, Elliot. This is going to be the Bengals year where we get back and you have a full season. There's no off-season drama or anything like that. We're not losing injuries. We're going to play, is it still 2 preseason games or 3? How many is it now?
3.
Doesn't matter. He'll play in at least one of them, and the Bengals will have a pretty normal offseason. I have to believe it.
Well, here's I started off this whole conversation with saying that the most mature thing you can do as an athlete is realize that when you're not at your best, you're a detriment to the team. Growing up, your entire life, your parents tell you, hey, if you're banged up, you play. Football player, baseball player, basketball, it doesn't matter what you play. You tweaked your ankle a little bit, your arm's a little sore, whatever. You go out there and you play. Joe Burrow is now understanding, hey, if I'm a little banged up week 1, week 2, it's okay for me to say, I got to make sure this is good to go. Because we have higher aspirations than beating the Ravens and the Browns week 1 and week 2. I have higher aspirations as this team has higher aspirations. They need me in November, December, January, February. They might not need me in September. All regular season games are created equal. But I think if you ask every single fan, would you rather have Joe Burrow healthy in September or would you rather have Joe Burrow healthy in January? It's a no-brainer answer. Right. And that is a positive, that he is admitting that he made a mistake last year and by rushing his calf, that he made a mistake in wanting to play, because that's what gamers do. They want to play. They want to go out the field. They want to help their team. And Joe Burrow has been a major part of the success, if not the catalyst of the whole thing, the engine of the whole thing that has taken a team to a Super Bowl and an AFC championship to where he probably felt like, hey, this team needs me. Now he's seeing, hey, I'm needed to win the championship. I'm needed to beat Patrick Mahomes. I'm needed to get to the AFC championship game. I might not be needed for week 1. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah, great athletes need protected from themselves, and that's basically what it comes down to. Is if you're a great athlete, all you want to do is be on the field. And obviously Joe wanted to do that last year, and it seems like he's realized that that's not where he's most important to the team.
Yep.
Yeah. Casey, any thoughts on the Joseph Burrow?
Nothing to add. You guys have pretty much eloquently said it. There's not much more than him just needing to be protected from himself. He's been very vocal on being conscious about how he's going to approach that. The team has been very responsive on that. They've done things during the off seasons, the years that leading up to this point, to bolster up that offensive line, to get him the weapons he needs to protect himself. I just think that the whole mentality has changed at this point. You don't need to get ready in June. You need to get ready by August, September. So I'm approving this situation, what they're doing right now, all the things that they're doing right now, 110%. This is good going forward.
So does it add any anxiety to you about Joe? Because you are pretty steadfast in that you're not worried about Joe's injuries. You say he's not injury prone and stuff like that, and that's an okay. That's a take. And does this add any worries for Joe that his confidence might be shaken a little bit?
Confidence. I don't think the confidence will be an issue. I think it'll be, if anything, it'll be an actual physical issue with him, right? The injury that he sustained, we don't know a ton of details about it, right? We know that it was a ligament injury, and from things that I've heard, things I've seen online, it's hard to really make a whole good conscious effort in knowing exactly what took place with his wrist. But wrist injuries are finicky, man. I mean, it could be a couple years before he gets full strength back in that wrist. And the fact that he's taking days off already at this point, like, he's doing everything that he can to make sure that it's still healthy and strong going into the season. I fear what it looks like maybe towards the end of the season. Are we going to see a little bit of a decline in velocity or accuracy? Who knows? But I don't think he's got a confidence issue. His aura is bar none. I mean, there's not another guy in the NFL that I have more confidence in, that probably has more confidence in himself than Joe Burrow.
It was either NFL trade rumors or JPA football, Dove Kleiman, one of those aggregator accounts. They tweeted, "Is Joe Burrow's aura past his skill?"
That was tweeted from Trace.
Okay.
Trace got a hold of that Twitter account, and he
Dove
tweeted
Kleiman,
that.
Trace.
Wait for Dove Kleiman to tweet out, when will the Joe Burrow honeymoon end? Because I got an answer for you. Never. It's never going to end. It's going to keep on going.